Are you looking for a fresh new horror film to grab your attention? Well, I think I've found one that's coming out soon which has a tremendous amount of potential to be truly great. And that film is A24's upcoming film, Backrooms. So in this video, I'll explain why this film could very well be worth your time. The biggest reason why I think this film has potential is due to its highly intriguing premise. Many horror films typically fall into very common tropes such as slasher films, ghost films, witches, monsters, and body horror, just to name a few examples. All can themselves be engaging, but they're typically not as layered with mystery as the premise of this film is. The Backrooms worked on the concept of liminal spaces, and it's a highly interesting and unique example of a liminal space. But firstly, what are liminal spaces? Liminal spaces are defined as a place or state of transition representing the in-between threshold between 2 points, states of being, or stages of life. They're often characterized by an eerie, nostalgic, or unsettling aesthetic, with these spaces typically being transitional. So some examples would be spaces like hallways, airports, office spaces, and car parks. And anywhere really where a usually busy place is now empty and stripped of its original purpose. So one such example that you see a lot in films is the abandoned hotel or motel setting. And it works so well because it's a space that we all know is supposed to be so busy with people. And the fact that they aren't lends them an eeriness that makes them very unsettling. Now, the premise of this particular film is set in a space that seems to resemble an abandoned office building, which is very fitting for the modern world in which we live in, where such spaces, when occupied with people, desks, chairs, computers, etc., are extremely familiar, but they're not often ever seen empty. And this gives this film a very uncanny quality to it, because the space is somewhat familiar, but it's incomplete. Moreover, as we see in the trailer, there are some intriguing shots in which the space itself has geometry that defies the laws of physics, while still remaining recognizably familiar as an office space. And this only enhances the sense of disorientation that it imbues upon the viewer. The space itself seems to be alive in a way that not many films in the genre tend to lean on. The closest example that I can think of would be something like how the hotel in The Shining and its sequel Doctor Sleep is suggested to be alive in some sort of supernatural way. Here with the Backrooms, the sense of this space being alive is even stronger, as it seems to me that the space itself is some sort of conscious entity that's able to carve out this office space that mimics other spaces that it's seen from somewhere. But where did this all come from? As you probably know, a vast majority of films are actually adaptations of either books or short stories or video games or other forms of art that are later then turned into films. And the reason for this is quite simple, really. Studios look for established intellectual property with some sort of proven track record of bringing in revenue before they greenlight a film production, due to the expensive nature of movie making, marketing, and distribution. So, this is another area where this film has a very unique origin for its original source material, because the Backrooms phenomena began as a social media post. Yes, you did hear that right. This film isn't based on a book or a short story of any conventional variety. It began as a post on the social media platform 4chan, in which someone posted this image here of a real life empty office space, and below this post, a different user posted a short few lines of text that read as follows: If you're not careful and you no clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the back rooms, where it's nothing but the stink of old moist carpet, the madness of mono yellow, the endless background noise of fluorescent lights at maximum hum buzz, and approximately 600 million square miles of randomly segmented empty rooms to be trapped in. God save you if you hear something wandering around nearby, because it sure as hell has heard of you. Now, if anyone's wondering what on earth no clipping is, it refers to a term used in video games where either a technical glitch or a deliberate cheat disables collision detection between the player's character and an object, enabling players to move through obstacles like solid walls and floors. And the key idea then in relation to this post is that no clipping refers to literally falling out of reality, much like how a character in a video game can from glitches. And then once you've fallen out of reality, you end up in this strange, endless liminal space here. And from this one post and subsequent comment left underneath it, a global internet phenomenon was born. And suddenly, it was everywhere. Short films were being made about it and uploaded to YouTube. Video games of the concept were suddenly everywhere. And it became this massive internet hit. One YouTuber in particular, who goes by the name of Kane Pixels, who we'll come back to more in a minute, created a series of short films that went absolutely viral on this subject. He took the concept and turned it into a found footage short horror film style, the first short film of which has had over 73 million views on YouTube as of today. From my research, his short films are arguably the best interpretation of this Backrooms idea, as they demonstrate a genuine keen eye for detail and narrative suspense building in how they're put together. Now that's important because Kane Pixels, whose real name is Kane Parsons, is actually the director of this A24 movie adaptation of this concept. He's one of the youngest Hollywood directors I've ever come across, making his directorial debut at just 20 years old with this upcoming film. Now that might seem very young for such a key position in a film's production, but both from his own short films he's made on YouTube and from the trailer released for this movie, it's clear to me that he really has the artistic vision to bring something very unique and interesting to the screen here. The origin of this film's concept also adds to its uniqueness, and it also has another potential factor that helps it, that being the audience that it's for. As per a recent Variety report, Generation Z are now the most active movie-going generation to see films in cinemas, and this represents a sizable shift away from the former narrative that cinema as a space was dying off and would be replaced by streaming. I suspect that in a world where so many things now are not as sociable, be it work from home jobs, online shopping and food deliveries, etc., the cinema has just become a particularly appealing space for my generation. And I also think that anecdotally, a lot of Gen Z, as a consequence of exposure to more movies and shows than ever, as well as entire online ecosystems of movie commentaries and podcasts and video essays like even this one, cinema and movies are becoming a key cornerstone of their lives and their culture. So, bringing this back into this video about the Backrooms, one of the reasons why I feel this film has the potential to do very well at the box office is because the idea, or franchise, if I can go as far as to call it that, is especially relevant and known to Gen Z audiences. So, in a time where Gen Z are now the most cinema going demographic, it's only smart to play into things that are likely to interest them, such as this Backrooms concept. The film also has a very low budget, with estimates ranging between 6.5 to 11 million US dollars. So it won't even need to make very much money at the box office to make the studio a profit. And one of the beauties of horror films in general is that because they often rely on suspense and shadows and things like that, the budgets can be quite low, as it's not like a superhero film where you need these big budgets to render these larger than life scale action set pieces and CGI enhancements and things to that extent. So, and the Backrooms too, whilst a brilliant set, I would imagine was probably very cheap to make given the lack of objects and props within that space. And that also in turn adds to the eeriness of it in the first place. I think it's a really genius design that keeps the costs low but the suspense of the story high. And the film also has a very solid cast, which gives me good hope for its quality. Known to be Chiwetel Ejiofor, I think I said that right, in what looks to be the starring role. He's a great actor in everything I've seen him in. He just has that presence that I think a lot of the very best actors do. So I'm really intrigued to see what he's able to bring to the film on a character level, as creating that connection between character and the audience is really essential in connecting the audience to the stakes of the narrative, and especially with a horror film, that's really important. So overall then, I think this film looks to have genuinely tremendous potential and be a very memorable and effective liminal space horror film, and one which I suspect, if it's as good as I hope it will be, could very well make a sizable profit with very, very good box office numbers. And if people want to know a little bit more about the Backrooms and the lore around it, I'll link some videos in the description as well as the Kane Pixels original short film, which if you haven't seen and are a fan of these types of films, I do highly recommend checking out. It might also be quite a good litmus test for anyone that's sort of on the fence about seeing the film, because I think it will give you a good idea as to what the final Hollywood film will be of it. So might want to have a look at it for those reasons as well. And yeah, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you're looking for more videos like this on your favorite movies and shows, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, it'd mean a lot. Thank you.